joining us right now on the Harbor One hotline as he always does. I got to tell you this, Chaim Bloom, good or bad, you come on this program, and I for one appreciate that. How are you?
Well, you know what? I'm in a better mood than you might think and it's funny you mentioned that. I actually figured out the problem.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. All right.
So I looked at this, and in 2023, literally every single time that I'm scheduled to come on with you guys, we lose the series right beforehand. I'm just telling you the facts are facts. Uh-huh. So, as you just said, I don't like to duck obligations, but folks, we got to figure something out because, this is killing us.
So basically what you're saying is you did the analytics on your interview, and that's what you got.
Exactly. Yeah. I did it manually, but.
Well,
we might have to move it to Friday, like you said, front office Fridays.
Yeah, we should move it to Friday.
This is actually, I don't know what we're going to do about it. We got to do something, though. The good news is we tended to play better after I call in.
Yeah.
So hopefully that history will repeat itself. But, this is a problem. I mean, like I said, facts are facts.
Well, we are at the halfway point in the season, and I wanted to get your perspective from when you came here, which I think was October 2019. Did you have for yourself an expectation when it came to winning the 5th World Series for this ownership group? And if so, how many seasons did you expect it would take?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, I'll answer that in two ways. So one, you have in your own mind, okay, I see where we are. I see the positives. I see what we need to work on. And you give yourself an idea of how long that might take. There's not going to be shortcuts to doing it. The absolute biggest thing that was going to get us there was getting back to having a lot of young talent in the organization, which, no secret, not telling you anything that's not news. We just didn't have at that time. At the same time, if you had told me, like, put me on truth serum, what's my expectation? I wouldn't have thought we would have had the best chance we've had so far in year 2. And part of the reason that happened is because we kept our heads down and just focused on doing the right things, and not trying to be arbitrary about it. I think those timetables can be limiting, but I also think, look, I would have told you by this point that you'd be able to see what that next core coming together would look like.
So you didn't specifically have. I think that I can have this organization winning a World Series in 3 years or 5 years. You didn't have an expectation on that, like a number in your head.
I think that's silly in baseball because the game doesn't really work that way. The teams that get there by doing the right things. That's what's been interesting so far about this season. Like, if you ask me, hey, is this where you wanted to be record-wise? Of course, no, it's not. But if you had told me that, hey, finally the young pitching is coming together, we look like we're developing starters, we're throwing strikes more than we ever have, we got position players from within our organization stepping up and looking like they can be real pieces, I would have said, yeah, that's exactly where I expect to be. But, candidly, I would have thought that would have come with more team success than we've had so far, and obviously it hasn't. And that's real. So, that's part of what makes this frustrating.
Yeah, but I'm not being coy here, but when you say I didn't, it's surprising to me theoretically that this team is in last place based on last season. Really, kind of the organization didn't do much last season versus this season when it came to changing up the roster. So how was that not your expectation, or is it what you're talking about with baseball, which is that essentially players need to play?
What do you mean in terms of when you say we didn't do much?
From my perspective, there were some significant players who left, and obviously the Story injury, but you didn't make many changes in the offseason when it came to this roster, from my perspective. Significant ones.
Yeah, I don't feel that way. I mean, obviously, and I know this has been hashed over. We've done it past times that I've called in. You can look at this move or that move. I think, by and large, obviously there's been a couple of exceptions, and that's hurt us. By and large, the guys that we brought in have contributed exactly like we hoped they would, or in some cases even better. And, I think in most of those individual cases, we've done the right thing for the organization with those decisions that we made. So I don't agree with that. Again, we are where we are.
Yeah.
So we got to own that. And that's real.
Chaim, when you say you are who you are, we heard Alex Cora on Tuesday say that the team's not good, but not bad. Are you okay with the team just being mediocre at this point of the season? And how do you change that? Do you agree with that sentiment from Alex Cora?
Yeah, I have to agree with it. It's just you look at where we're at. It's just a description of where we're at. Of course, I'm not okay with it. No one here is. But we've earned that. It's how we played. Usually that means there's some good things going on that we've earned, and there's some bad things going on that we've earned. So, this is obviously not a satisfying answer, but it's simple. Like some of the things that have contributed to the 41 losses we can't control, but there's plenty that we can, and we got to clean those things up and be better.
Where does the blame fall there? Is it a talent issue that you have with this current roster?
Yeah, we talked about this last time I called in. I don't believe in pointing fingers, but if you want to point them at me. I'm responsible. But I don't think that helps. That's certainly not how I operate. We're not going to accomplish anything if we're doing that. Whether we realize it or not, we are all in this together. We all rise and fall together, so we all got to figure it out together.
When it comes to the trade deadline coming, where are you on that now? Do you think you need to add to this team?
Well, we need to put ourselves in a position for, being aggressive with that to make a lot of sense. And look, we have obviously large or small from day one. It's not like you sit there and you wait till July 30th, 31st, August 1st, and see where you are, and then you decide everything that you're going to do. We're constantly talking. Obviously, the moves we've made, just like most teams to this point of the season, have been, so to speak, smaller moves. Some of them have really paid off, but we're constantly looking to add. But, the fact of the matter is, like many teams, if you are in this position, how you play between now and the deadline really determines what you do. It's no different from what happens, in terms of in-game decisions on a nightly basis, where the scoreboard in the game dictates what you do. So that's true of us too. Obviously where we are right now isn't good enough. We need to be better. Obviously we could always stand to improve the club, but we also need, we have on hand in terms of, active players, guys that hopefully will return from the IL. We need to do better with the group that we have, for that to really make a ton of sense.
But isn't that, in a way, a self-fulfilling prophecy when you build a roster that has holes and then the team is 500 at this point of the year? Obviously, you expected them to hopefully be a little bit better, but this wasn't the most talented roster in the American League or in the American League East. So the team's about where it is, and you say they need to be performing better in order to improve them at the deadline. Why not view it the other way, where you need to inject more talent into this roster as soon as possible so that the team has a chance to contend?
Why can't both of those things be true? I mean, look, there's no perfect team, right? Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. And heck, one of the things about this season, like last season, we got absolutely boat raced, but within the division, we got crushed by good teams. This season, it's actually been the opposite. But it seems like the better the opposition, for the most part, the better we've played. We've actually tripped up way too much against teams that are struggling. So it's, if you sit there and say, okay, we're going to pick one team that has the best roster, and that's the team, worthy of attention, worthy of reinforcement, and everybody else should hold up the tent. Well, that's no way to look at things. Both need that. We gotta look to improve the team however we can, but we also, need a lot of that to come from within. Otherwise, we're not going to get.
But I would say that I'm reacting to what the organization is saying. I'm not saying that you shouldn't add now. I'm just saying that what we've been told by you or Sam or Brian, that the team has to be good enough to invest in. And as someone who observes this team, that is a frustrating attitude to take, considering the gap between where you are now and where contending is.
Yeah, I think they're both true. I'm not saying the team has to be good enough to invest in. I'm saying we are always looking to improve the team. We should always be looking to do that. The reality of this situation is that, a lot of the bigger moves around the industry, right, they all take two, at least, to happen. Those happen later. So we're always looking to improve it. But at the same time, This is true of us. This is true of 29 other clubs. How you play every day matters, and it moves the dial one way or the other. Not stating anything that should be news. That's true of every team.
Chaim, how often do you talk with John Henry, and what is his mood currently on this team?
Well, whether it's talk or text or WhatsApp or whatever, we're in constant communication, and it's exactly the way you think it would be. And like all of us, especially the last couple of weeks, I mean, it's been, we won 6 in a row a week ago, and things look pretty good. And obviously, the last week has been a struggle, and it puts him in a bad mood, puts me in a bad mood, and you better believe everybody around the organization, because we don't like playing like this.
Earlier this week, I'll ask this for Chaim. He brought up Xander Bogaerts. In hindsight, being 2020, in your mind, did the departure of Xander Bogaerts create a leadership void maybe on this team, or no?
Well, Xander is a really, really special person and player. We all know that. That's obviously been hashed over. I'm obviously comfortable with where we were willing to go, and as a tough decision interpersonally, tough organizationally, but I think sometimes you got to make the tough decisions that are the right ones. And who he is and what he means here, no one's going to step in and replace that. But I want to be very clear. Like, I don't see a leadership void. I think we have a really good clubhouse. We have some pretty special people in there. Old faces, new faces, that are doing a lot. And it was actually striking, I think, how much the group from day one in spring training, especially, given there was so much noise around the group at that time, was really just focused on what they needed to go out and do. And you wouldn't know. I know there was a lot of stuff out there. You wouldn't know about any of that if you were in our camp on a daily basis. That's hard to maintain during the ups and downs of the season. I think they've done a pretty remarkable job. I think they've shown themselves to be resilient. It's frustrating that we haven't been able to, get hot and stay hot. But I think this group has already been written off a number of different times this season and found a way to play well after it. It's getting later in the season. So that obviously that task grows tougher, but I don't have any concern about that. I think, we obviously just need to go out and prove it.
Chaim, thanks for taking the time this week, and we'll look into moving to a different day.
Yeah, I think that's what we need.
Maybe Monday. Maybe Monday's better after a weekend series or whatever. Wiggy.
I like front office Fridays.
We're gonna get creative. I'm gonna talk to our folks here and so I mean, we always talk about small samples. I recognize it's a small sample, but it is shaping up as a major problem, and especially Chris, if you want to say we shouldn't wait around to address our problems, we got one right in front of us, staring us in the face.
I like it,
We got to figure out something.
We got to be proactive, at least here. We can do our part.
Yeah, we call it the Hillman Jinx on this show.
Maybe off season with Chaim.
So we'll figure out something.
All right. Thanks, Chaim. All right. There's Chaim Bloom and the Red Sox front office report.